and today we wanted to talk a little bit about settling in relationships.
It's a very important topic.
Very. I think it's a huge phenomenon in our society. I think we all know somebody who is currently settling in a relationship or who has in the past. I know I have. And a lot of our friends have. So it's definitely a big thing. It's a big issue. And we wanted to definitely shed some light on it because it's one of those struggles that is really difficult. You know, it's such a horrible place to be in, mentally, emotionally, sometimes physically. And I think it's really important to be more open about it, talk about it, and we wanted to share it with you guys, share our thoughts.
So we decided that we were going to shed light on two of the topics when it comes to settling. One of them is important because I feel like a lot of people forget that this isn't even an issue. There are people who are afraid of settling, whether it's commitment issues or whatever they feel in that sort of situation. They're scared of being in the relationship and they feel like they could find better, so they leave that relationship to try and find better when in reality they screw themselves over. Yeah. That's one topic we're going to cover. A second one we're going to cover is being in a relationship and being so comfortable in that relationship that ideally in the long run you're not going to be happy because you're staying in that relationship because of the fact of pure comfort. And you think that that relationship is for you when really it's not. Just because you guys have been through many obstacles together, you've been through a lot together, doesn't mean that you guys are meant to be together. And I think that's an important factor, and I don't think people realize that. So I think settling is a very confusing word because we all get confused with it because at the end of the day, we don't know if we're settling or not, and that's a scary thought.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about reasons why people settle, signs that you are settling in a relationship, and we wanted to definitely give some advice on this issue because it really hits home, especially for me. She was there for a lot of my last relationship, so she saw how it went, and so we wanted to speak a little bit about that and also kind of speak about the other side of
where we're talking about commitment issues and why we're afraid to settle and why sometimes leaving a relationship, like I said previously, can screw you over by thinking you're going to find someone better, because there are no unicorns. I'm sorry, they don't exist at all.
No one and nothing is perfect, and I think you learn that as you get older. It really comes with age. So we are in our primes of our lives, and I know a lot of our viewers are. So I think this is the times to make the most healthy decisions in your life. It's right now. You know, you only live once, so make the best of it.
So now we're going to talk about signs. There's signs where you know that you're settling. Some of these are pretty obvious to the point signs, but I mean, I think that sometimes people don't get it because it doesn't smack you straight in your face and you realize, oh, I'm settling. Basically, the first one is you are not being who you are. And I know that sounds insane, it sounds silly, because it's hard to distinguish who you are when you're going through adolescence, when you're going through different phases in your life, where you're trying to figure out who you are, and then you're in a relationship, and then that person's trying to figure out who they are too, and you guys are trying to tackle life together and figure out what you guys want to do, and your goals, your accomplishments, things that you want to achieve together. So I understand it's difficult to see that you've changed, but I think it's a huge sign to know that you've changed in a relationship and you're not who you are anymore. And I think the best way to discover that is to think, if you are not in this relationship anymore, would you do the things that you're doing in that relationship without that person? And if you wouldn't, then you know you've changed for them and not in a better way. And that's a huge sign.
Yeah, definitely. Another really big sign that you're settling in a relationship is if you are being physically or emotionally abused and you are still in the relationship.
Neither of those things. These sound pretty obvious as well, but they're things that people go through every day and they don't realize it, because when you're in love, you're not thinking about things that seem so obvious or seem so dangerous to a relationship.
Yeah. I think that being physically or emotionally abused are two horrible things. I know somebody who was being physically abused in her last relationship, and it was torture. I was with him, I think it was like 6 or 7 years they were together. and she regrets it every day. And I think being emotionally abused is much more common. I think it's maybe not talked about as much, but I think a lot of people are being emotionally abused.
I have been
in their
emotionally abused.
relationships. I was emotionally abused in mine, and it's definitely not something to use lightly, and I'm completely aware of that. But you know, it's a very serious thing.
In reality, if you are compromising your religious values, your social values, your political values, and your moral values, which tie in with religious values, and you're doing things out of your comfort zone that you wouldn't really do all because you think that you love this person, that's a huge sign of settling. I think you should be with someone who accepts everything about you, flaws and all, and you shouldn't have to change yourself unless you're changing yourself for the better.
Another sign that you are settling in a relationship is when you feel like you are sacrificing so much because your partner is just not willing to compromise. You feel like you have to kind of constantly be on your toes and work so hard, give 110%, while your partner is not putting in anything towards the relationship, no effort, nothing. And it's not, I think a relationship should be 50-50, totally mutual. You both are putting in. But unfortunately, there's a lot of relationships where someone is giving, and the other person is just taking and doesn't care. And it's a very disrespectful thing, and not that alone, but it really brings the other person down who's just giving so much in this relationship because
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. I mean, it's
and I think
such an unhealthy thing.
And I think the sad part about that whole situation is you're trying so hard to keep this relationship alive, and this person is laying back and sees you as a convenience. Convenience because of the fact that you're doing everything that makes them happy. You're doing the most for them. So they really just sit back and it's convenient for them. So in reality, they're not respecting you. They're not even loving the relationship because they don't try anymore. And that's a huge sign of settling. And I think the fact that some people stay in those situations thinking that that significant other will come around or is in a funk or that significant other is going to change, they're never going to change. That's convenient for them, and they're going to leave you when they find someone that, keeps them on their toes, and you're clearly not doing that anymore. And I know that sounds terrible to say, but when you're doing too much for someone, you become a convenience to the point that it's overbearing and it's too much, and that person just has no respect for you whatsoever. Okay, so now we're going to talk about reasons why people settle.
I think one of the biggest reasons why people settle is comfort.
Huge reason.
Comfort. It is probably the number one biggest reason why people settle in relationships, because they are comfortable in it. They know.
They think they're happy in it.
Well, it's not, yes, they think they're happy in it. They know, though, that they can do better. They know that there's more out there for them. They know that there's probably a better match around the corner. Yet they still stay in the relationship because they're comfortable in it.
It's basically like eating a McDonald's sandwich. And you love McDonald's, right? You love it. It's great. You're happy. But is it fulfilling? Is it fulfilling?
It's not a filet mignon, guys.
Exactly.
No.
So, enough about comfort. I think another one would be guilt. I think guilt is a huge one. And I think Romina has experienced that. And I think sometimes you're in a relationship and you're scared. Not that you're scared, but you feel... You're upset leaving it because you think that this person is going to be very vulnerable and very upset and in a huge depression state because you leave. So you stay in it because of guilt. And I know that, like I said before, she's experienced it and it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you are in a relationship for so long, you almost feel responsible for the other person and their feelings and how they react to certain things, even though you're totally not. That's not your responsibility.
But you feel that way.
Because
you guys have spent so many years together that leaving them, you feel like you kind of left them high and dry, like on the side of the road.
Yeah, and I actually have a little funny thing about that. So I definitely don't want to bash anyone. I have love for everyone, especially even my exes who may have not treated me the best in the past. But funny enough, I dated someone for quite a while, and I I would say that one of the biggest reasons on why I didn't leave the relationship was that I just felt very guilty about it. I felt responsible for him. And the funniest thing is, I think like 3 months after we broke up, he got into a very serious relationship with someone else. And like now they're like really happy, which I'm totally happy for him.
It's
like,
just really funny because
but
she
it's
stayed
funny
in it
because
for
I
a while.
stayed in that relationship for so long thinking, oh my God, like what if he doesn't find someone else? What if I'm just like this horrible person that's gonna leave
Screwing
this
up his
guy?
life.
Like I'm totally gonna screw up this guy's life. No, definitely not. He's happy in a relationship. I'm happy for him. I'm still single, but that's just kind of something funny, and I just wanted to mention that because I know that there's so many viewers right now that maybe are in that same state that I was, of like that guilty state of mind where you don't want to like leave the relationship. But let me tell you, do not base, staying in a relationship off of your guilt. The reason why people settle in relationships is financially, and I think especially women.
Oh, in this day and age, you see it all the time.
Yeah, I think some women totally depend on a man financially, and I think that is probably one of the worst things to do. I know that me and Nikita were both raised to work really hard for what you have. I think that it's just one of the worst things that you can do in the worst situations you can put yourself in, because
it's so hard to get out of.
It's so hard to get out of, and you never know. That person can just leave you at any moment, throw you to the street, and you have to kind of
like garbage.
figure out what to do from there. So do not ever do that. Don't be that person. You're better than that. Be stronger than that. Make a living for yourself.
And don't live your life depressed and unhappy because you're stuck with this
Yeah.
person because of financial reasons. That's probably the worst feeling. You're not living your life. I don't care how many Chanel bags you have. It does not give you happiness whatsoever.
Yeah, you're trapped. You're pretty much trapped, and you don't even know
We would rather ride the bus with our significant other every day, put a couple coins in, dollars,
Yeah.
and be happy. You don't want to be stuck in something just because of financial reasons. Like basically based off of our first video that we featured last week over insecurities, another thing why people stay in relationships, another reason is because of low self-esteem.
Yeah. They feel like they can't do any better. They have completely settled in this relationship thinking that this is the best it's ever going to be, that they're not worthy of anything better, which it's totally the opposite of that.
So now we just want to give you guys a couple things that we felt were helpful for us in relationships, and I think it's great advice to know, tell your friends, learn about, and jump right in it.
Yeah. I think people need to realize that time is so precious and so valuable. I think growing up, we don't really realize that, and as you get older, you realize that life is so short, and you only have so much time in your life to make decisions that benefit you. And I think when it comes to relationships, some people waste years. I mean, years of their life. Their health is literally declining because of like the pressures and the depression or anxiety or whatever that they're suffering from in the relationship, and you don't get time back. You don't. Anything can happen tomorrow, so you need to make the best of your life. You need to make decisions that benefit you and your life. And I never say this, but I think sometimes it's okay to be selfish when it comes to like benefiting yourself, benefiting for your life. I mean, you only have one life to live, and you better make the best of it. You have to be strong in some areas like that and make decisions that work for you.
And going off of that, I think, another reason, more advice to give, it's extremely important to have respect in your relationship. And I think it's hard. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, and I'm not trying to say therapy doesn't work for people in relationships, but I personally think when respect is out of the relationship, it's gone, and I don't truly believe it's ever going to come back. And I think that's hard for people to swallow because they constantly try and fix a relationship thinking that it's going to get better and they're going to work through it, and they've had hard times, they've been through a lot, and they think because of time, because of the years that they've spent together, that they don't want to lose that, and they don't want to walk away from something that was majority of their life.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but at the same time, when respect is gone, I think people need to understand that it's never going to come back. And I think whenever you start a relationship, those boundaries should never be crossed. And I think, once you lose respect for someone, I personally don't think you love that person at all. Once you have no respect for someone or no regard for their well-being,
Yeah.
or say things that are hurtful or do things that are inappropriate, you don't love that person. That's not love. You may think it's love, and your perception may be a little twisted, but it's not love, and it's not healthy for your mental health, for your life, for your family, for your friends. It changes who you are as a person. And I think overall, respect is huge. And when you don't have that, like I said, you don't have a relationship.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people go into relationships expecting their partner to change, even from the very beginning. Like, they look at their partner and they think, okay, I know what I want this person to be, and I'm going to turn them into that. But you fail miserably. You cannot change someone, and you definitely cannot change the outcome of a relationship by yourself. It takes two to make a relationship work and to make a relationship
You can better
last.
someone, but there's a difference between expecting outcomes and wanting to change someone dramatically. To the point is you're morphing someone into what you want or what you think is a perfect person, and that's, like we said before, that's not reality. That's not true. There are no unicorns in this world.
Definitely not. And you really cannot control the outcome of how someone handles like a breakup or handles a situation. You are not responsible for how someone else handles it. And I don't think you should hold that onto that. That's such a burden, and that's going to really affect your decision making in life. And again, as you get older, and I know I keep saying this, but you just learn so much as you get older. I mean, I've learned so much, even in this past 1 year. I've learned so much. So I think something I've definitely learned is that you can't control the outcome of everything, and you can't feel responsible for how someone else for how someone else feels or handles a situation. That's kind of their own business, so don't feel like you have to worry about
Don't
that.
feel responsible,
Don't.
especially going off of that with family and friends, and the fear of breaking up, and knowing that you're so close to family and certain circles of friends that you guys have moved around together as a group. You can't feel for other people, and you can't decide whether you want to break up because of other people and their outcomes with it. It's all about you at the end of the day. Like she said, you have to be selfish with your decision, with your choice, and what you want to be happy moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what also is important, which, Romina and I believe this. I don't know if everyone believes this. There is no wrong and right, but I personally don't think there's one soulmate for you out there. I think there are multiple soulmates out there in the world, and I think there's multiple people you can fall in love with. And I think the problem is people stay in relationships because they think that they've had this extraordinary, amazing, exciting, thrilling love that they feel like they're never going to receive again, or they're never going to feel that way again. And it's not true. And you will feel that again with another person, and it's going to be in a whole different situation, a whole different circumstance, and a more healthier situation. Because just because you're in love and the thrill is great and everything's great doesn't mean that it's healthy. It doesn't mean it's good for you. And I think that's very important. I think people take the thrill of love and they keep it and they stay with that just because they feel like they're going to lose that and not find that with someone else. So they rather, not have a healthy relationship and have that kind of relationship, when in reality it's not benefiting you whatsoever. And there are multiple people you can find out there in the world who are going to love you unconditionally. And yes, it's going to be a different love. You won't be able to relate to it. It's going to be different from the love you had previously. But that doesn't mean it can't be thrilling, exciting, and extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think we kind of want to end with the fact that it's very important to love yourself. Learn to love yourself, and boost your self-esteem. I think a lot of people that are stuck in horrible, unhealthy relationships obviously have low self-esteem. Maybe they don't feel worthy of better, but just know that you deserve the world. You deserve better. You are capable of having and doing anything in this world and anything in this life. Don't limit yourself. Your happiness is limitless. And I also think some people are scared of being lonely, so they stay in these horrible situations because they're like, well, I rather have someone than not have someone. I don't want to be alone. I'm so scared of being alone. And I'm somebody who I kind of used to be that way, where I was really fearful of being alone. Even like just literally alone, like at home. Like I don't like being alone. I always like having a friend with me, or like being with my family. I just don't like being alone. And that was probably one of my biggest fears in life. But
and it's also hard because you see your friends in relationships and you see
yeah,
yourself single, so you think that everyone's progressing with their lives and you're stuck in a situation and you're unhappy with everything because you're single and you're lonely, and then you meet people and they're not great and you just feel like you just keep dating and dating and dating. But you can't give hope, you can't like lose hope on that.
Yeah, and I think I learned that through my breakup. I broke up with my partner in my last relationship. I took that risk of being alone. And let me tell you, it did wonders. It was the best
I mean, it's
decision.
hard. It was very hard at first, but
it was the best decision I have ever made in my life. And I can say that with so much honesty and truth behind it. 100%, I mean that. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I wish I did it way sooner than I did, but I took that leap of faith, and in return, I found myself. You know, I learned so much about myself, and I gained self-esteem. I learned more about what I want in a relationship and what I don't want, what I will tolerate, what I won't tolerate, and what I deserve. And I think it was the most amazing thing that could have happened, and I think it was great. So yeah, I think some people are very scared of being alone, but you need to let go of that fear, take that leap of faith, and
you need to enjoy it. You need to own it. You need to love it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being alone. There's nothing wrong with taking time for yourself, and I think that's important, especially when you are getting out of a relationship that obviously didn't work out or wasn't healthy, or whatever the reason is. It's time for you to do you.
Being single is fun too. I mean, there's so many benefits to being single as well. I mean, being in a relationship, I love, and I think it's wonderful and beautiful, but when it's not the right one,
don't force yourself.
Don't force it. Don't force it. There's like 8 billion people in the world. I'm sure one of them is
I'm sure many of them.
A better match than the person that you're settling with. So, yeah, we really are passionate about this subject. I think because we both have gone through situations where we have settled in relationships, and we know so many people out there that are settling, and our hearts go out to you because, again, we totally understand that this is something very difficult. This is so unhealthy. It's so difficult to get out of. It's so difficult to be in.
It's a hard situation. I mean, it's an emotional situation, and I think that, you know, we wanted to talk about this because we wanted people, you know, to relate and understand. And like we said, it's a hard topic to talk about. It makes you uncomfortable because you think about these thoughts and you don't know if these thoughts are things that you should actually pursue and do, or if you should leave it be and stay in the relationship that you're in.
Yeah. But I hope that you took something away from this video, and maybe before you watched this video, you felt a little bit stuck in your relationship, and I hope that maybe after it and listening to everything that we've
clarified a little bit.
It's helped you kind of lean towards making the right decision for you. I wish that there was someone there for me when I was going through this. And, you know, I just hope that we can help you guys in any way possible because we know the pain. We really are here for you, and we feel your pain.
And we love you.
We love you.
So thanks for tuning in. Catch us next week.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Please subscribe, and we, love you guys so much. Thank you. Bye.